In this training, we're going to go over tracking, the importance of it, and how to make it more fun. If you ever hired a marketing company agency or marketing guru, you've probably had interactions with them, or they sent you monthly marketing reports that had terms like cost per click, cost per lead, cost per impression, CPMs, all kinds of stuff that didn't make any sense to you. And it used to not make sense to me either, but I'm here to demystify these terms for you and give them actual meaning and tell you that you should never need to look at another marketing report again without being able to understand it. Tracking really should be fun. Once you understand it and the numbers and what they mean, it can become a lot of fun and you can view it as a game. But if you're anything like me, I don't enjoy being less than competent at things. And I've hired a golf coach because shooting over 100 consistently was not fun for me. So once I started to understand tracking, it became a lot more fun for me. And that's why I set up the CRM first in every practice I work with, because I need to be able to track effectively. So in this training, we're going to go over the metrics that matter, what they mean, how to track them. And I've included a PDF here. This is the 5 core functions of business. I believe it's here as well. You'll need to know these KPIs that we're going to go over here. Old branding, it's a great document. I just haven't rebranded it. You need to know the KPIs in this document here to be able to objectively grade your practice. And that'll be a whole nother training, but you need to know this stuff before we can go on to the next one. I've also included a practice tracking sheet. I believe I mentioned this in the lead gen module as well, but this is for tracking. Daily spend, leads, you can do this monthly. This is just a monthly setup, outbound calls made from your team, appointments booked, no shows attended, and you can figure out costs for all these based off total spend and doing the math here. So you'll need those 2 tools. And then when I consult with practices, these are the things I ask them for. Before we can even begin working together, I need to know these metrics to be able to put together a plan that makes sense. And without this data, everything's just kind of guessing. So you'll hear these terms referred to as KPI, which is key performance indicator. All of the metrics below are KPIs. They are crucial numbers to know for making educated decisions in your business. So if you hear somebody ever ask you, what's your KPIs? This is what they mean. Sales cycle. So when a prospective patient first engages with your business, the period of time in between that first engagement to when that customer buys from your business. For example, if a patient calls your business August 1st, that starts their sales cycle. And then they have their appointment August 15th. And then they sign up for treatment August 30th. The sales cycle is 30 days. This is important because if you generate a lead on November 1st and they complete the procedure on November 25th or whatever this is, your sales cycle is 25 days. But that sales cycle will be a constant. And it's important to make sure that your team knows this, because it can get confusing. If you're like, well, I generated the lead on the 4th and that lead closed on the 25th. Do I attribute that to the 4th? And that applies to all this. Like, I scheduled a procedure from a lead that came in last month. Like, where do I attribute this to? Especially the month over month stuff, it gets confusing, where like if you generated 60 leads in the month of October and all of them converted in the month of November, like that sales cycle is a constant. And we just need to assume that moving forward, and you can't get hung up on that too much. It's a good number to track, but don't let it kill you when it comes to tracking data. Always average it. Some patients will start on the same day, some won't. Next one's cost per click. This is generally used with paid marketing campaigns like Facebook, Google, Instagram. Cost per click is the total spent on ads over a period of time divided by the total clicks on that ad. It's a good number to know. It's the leading indicator. If you can't get clicks, you can't get leads. If you can't get leads, you don't have a marketing campaign. You're just burning cash. So the more viral and clickbaity you make your headlines, your ads, your offers, the more clicks you'll get. Quality may go down a bit. That's why this isn't the most important thing to look at, but it is definitely important. Cost per lead. I have a whole training on cost per lead. and why it matters, because I always hear that it doesn't, but it definitely does. A very simple formula for calculating this is total spend divided total number of leads. Cost per lead equals, if you got 50 leads and you spent $1,000, it'd be 20 spent per lead. That's your CPL here. Why is this important? Every single other metric depends on this number. So when a marketer tells you the CPL is great and you cringe, what they really mean and failed to articulate is, because our cost per lead is low, we have a lot of room for error. We can fail more times than our competition can afford to fail to convert this cold traffic into a paying customer because our cost per lead is so low. It's like going to the batting cages and starting in the slow pitch softball and then working your way up to the fastballs. Because we are getting lots of slow pitch softballs, we have a lot of opportunities to hit the ball. Whereas you're playing in the majors, you're throwing 70, 80, 90 mile an hour fastballs, it's a lot harder to hit. If you see the training on why cost per lead matters, this will make a lot more sense to you. I'm not going to go too in depth here, but just know that it is very, very important. Cost per appointment scheduled. If you look at our sheet here that we're working our way through, appointment booked would be appointment scheduled. This is not to be confused with cost per appointment attended, which should also be closely tracked, as you need to know your attendance rate to really determine how well your scheduling team is doing. Anybody can say that they have booked an appointment with a patient, but without a firm commitment or a credit card on file to reserve that appointment, it's hard to say for sure if they actually did. And I'm not calling anyone a liar, but the reality is salespeople exaggerate their productivity. So to calculate this, you would do total spent on ads divided by total of appointments booked. So if you book 20 appointments, spend $1,000, $50 to book an appointment. Now, the biggest question I usually get on this has to do with the time frame in which the appointments are scheduled. And I mentioned this in the sales cycle section here, but the lag in your sales cycle should be constant. You should know how long it takes on average, and then it should be constant. And then once you've got some constant periods of time in your sales cycle, you can look to improve it. But generally, the shorter the better. I've always found that you want to get people booked in. I'll go over this in lead nurture, but you want to get people booked in within 72 hours of the lead coming in. And then ideally, if you can get them started on treatment sooner than later, you'll do much better in business. In orthodontics, they talk about same day starts. They want to get in contact with people from the time that lead is generated within 5 minutes. And then they want to get them in the office within 72 hours. And then they want to start treatment ideally on that day. If you can do all those things, you'll have a really successful orthodontic practice. It applies in all practices, really. Like the faster you can get people in, the better. So for you to effectively track this, you need a really good CRM, which we will implement in the next module. You want to track the source of leads in the date range. And then you need to understand if you plan to spend money on paid ads at all, there will be a sales cycle, meaning that leads generated in July may buy in August, September, October. There will be a permanent length. But for calculating these metrics, you should consider it to be a constant. Always try and calculate this metric on a monthly, quarterly, and annual basis. It'll just give you more data, and sometimes it'll be slightly different monthly versus annually. Next, once you've got cost per appointment scheduled, you have to figure out your cost per appointment attended. Now, these will vary because as you've got appointments booked and appointments attended, these will vary because you have no-show rates and you have reschedule rates, and attendance rates vary. So math's getting pretty simple here. Total spend on ads divided by total amount of appointments attended. If you spend $1,000 on ads, get 10 appointments, you get $100 per appointment attended, which is really good in most of our high ticket stuff. If you can spend $100 to get a selling opportunity, to get like a consult where generally somebody's going to pay you for that consultation. And a lot of like our functional medicine hormone consultations, those are paid. So in my opinion, this is when the numbers get fun because you start to get to sell stuff. Everything before this point is just work to get the opportunity to sell your stuff. And then you want to know your conversion rate to be able to figure out your cost to acquire a customer. Conversion rate's not in here, but that's just the total amount of, hold on, I'm going to add it. It's really important. Over time, I just had to go and add it in there. Over time, once you know your conversion rate, if you know your cost per appointment attended, you know roughly your cost to acquire a customer on a campaign. So for a lot of my stuff, I like to get leads for under $50. If I can get leads for under $50, I know I can get appointments attended for around $100. If I can get appointments attended for around $100, I can get like an 80% close rate. And I know my cost to acquire a customer is an outcome of that. So you can do some math here and get to know some patterns in your business. But close rate, great number to know. A lot of people will say that their close rate from referrals is different than their close rate from paid ads, which I would say is probably true because these are cold traffic, not warm. There's no trust, fuzzy feeling built. So you definitely need to get them closer to the finish line before they'll buy from you. So it could be good to look at your close rate from paid ads versus your close rate from referrals. It's often a conversation that I have to have at the front desk and like reset the expectations. CAC, cost to acquire a customer, also referred to as a CAC, probably the most important their metric there is. However, everything else needs to go right for this one to even financially make sense. So this is the total spend divided by the total number of customers acquired from that spend. For example, if you spent $1,000 on ads, you got 5 new customers. That's $200 to acquire a customer. In most of our procedures and treatments, this will work fantastically well if you can get them for $200. I worked with Dr. Mercado out of Lake Mary, Florida, just north of Orlando. And we were spending $1,000 to get $15,000 cosmetic surgery cases. And that's something that we were doing all day. Doggy's getting excited. Give me a second. I talked about the importance of getting cheaper leads in a CPL training in the lead generation module. But if your program or treatment only costs $250 and you're paying $200 to acquire a customer, obviously these metrics don't work for you, which brings us to the next metric. You need to have a high enough lifetime value to even run ads in the first place. If you do not have a high enough lifetime value, if your customers do not spend enough money over a period of time with you, it makes running paid ads very tricky unless you can acquire them for a very low amount of money. And for most of us, we will not be exceptional at running ads until we've done it for 8 or 10 years. So you want to know how long a customer or patient stays with your business on average. And then you want to know how much they will spend with your company over that period of time. So if you have a membership model where people pay $300 a month and generally stay for 12 months, your lifetime value is $3,600, 12 times 300. So if you know that somebody's going to spend $3,600 with you over their first year, you can spend, I would probably be comfortable spending $500 to $700 to get that customer. I wouldn't want to have to spend that much, but I'd be willing to because I know that this person's probably going to refer somebody else if I do a good job for them also. So a great offer or program is a high lifetime value, meaning that you deliver great value to your patients and they want to spend money with you for a long time. We call this retention, and we'll definitely talk about it. But just to highlight this even more, the true lifetime value of a customer is like if you have a great product or service or you take great care of your people, they'll refer. Like Dr. Joy has sent me 3 other clients in this past year. So like the lifetime value of that one's pretty exponential because those 3 will then probably refer also. So it can get crazy if you just spend the time to figure out the lifetime value and then do good work and have great customer service for people. Anyway, return on ad spend is the ROAS, sometimes referred to, the amount of revenue brought in from an ad campaign correlated to how much was spent on the campaign. So your ROAS would be total revenue brought in divided by total spend on that campaign over a period of time. For example, if you brought in $5,000 in revenue and you spent $1,000 on ads, you had a 5x ROAS. This can also be thought of as a 5-to-1 ratio, meaning for every dollar you spend, you bring in 5. And the secret to a great ROAS is having a high lifetime value. You can afford to pay pretty much whatever you need to acquire a customer if you know that your customer is going to spend $10,000 plus with your practice. So in the next training, I'll be going over the 5 core functions of business. It's this sheet here, and how to use the KPIs to objectively grade yourself and measure progress in these different areas.